hustlers confessed in stereo. I only hear blasphemers on the radio. They don't have a soul. They sold it to Beelzebul. They have no control. Alright. Remember, David said, you put a new song in my mouth? I can go forever. I can go forever. Anyway, I just love that song. Never knew hustlers confessed in stereo. Let's see. Pull the old squawk box up here. Okay. Now let's go. So we ended on Amos chapter 5. And I'm going to read chapter 6, 7, and 8, and 9. Oh, there's 9 chapters. Remember I said 9 in Nineveh? It's very interesting. I think I'm onto something there. All glory goes to Yehovah Sabaoth. Okay. So this is Amos chapter 6. I actually didn't take a sip of water. My throat was getting dry. I'm trying to get through this fast so I can eat some food. That's what it said about Messiah and his disciples, or his taught ones. It said they were so busy most of the time they hardly got time to eat. So chapter 6 here. Woe to those at ease in Sion. Isn't it interesting it's chapter 6, and I told you about Ramphon and the 6-pointed star? Woe to those at ease in Sion, and those trusting in Mount Somaron, the distinguished ones among the chief of the nations to whom the house of Israel comes. Pass over to Chaldean Sea, and from there go to Hamath the Great. Then go down to Gath of the Philistines. Are you better than these reigns? Or is their border greater than your border? You who are putting off the day of evil, yet bringing near the seat of violence, who are lying on beds of ivory and are stretched out on your couches, and are eating lambs from the flock and calves from the midst of the stall, who are singing to the sound of a harp, having composed songs for themselves like David, who are drinking wine from bowls and anoint with the finest ointments, yet they have not been pained over the breach of Yosheph. When I'm on that site with the cameras, there's been many times I've seen these Israelis just like partying. It's like, you shouldn't be partying right now, even for your own people. Anyway. Therefore they shall now go into exile with the first of the exiles, and the feasting of the stretched out ones shall cease. The Master Yehovah has sworn by himself. Yehovah Elohim Sebaot declares, I am loathing the pride of Jacob, and I have hated his palaces. Therefore I shall deliver up the city and all that is in it. And it shall be that if 10 men remain in one house, they shall die. And if an uncle or his undertaker brings the remains out of the house, he shall say to the one inside the house, is anyone with you? And he says, no. And he shall say, Husha, for we have not remembered the name of Yehovah. For look, Yehovah is commanding, and he shall strike the great house with breaches, and the little house with clefts. Wow, that even sounds like, you know how when bullets hit concrete? Do horses run on a rock? Does one plow it with oxen? For you have turned right ruling into poison, and the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. You who are rejoicing over a matter of naught, who say, have we not taken horns for ourselves by our own strength? Who are rejoicing over a matter of naught. It's kind of like much ado about nothing. For look, I am raising up a nation against you, O house of Israel, declares Yehovah Elohim Sabaoth, and they shall oppress you from the entrance of Hamath to the Wadi Arabah. This is what the Master Yehovah showed me, and see, he was forming locust swarms at the beginning of the late crop. Oh, I always think this is Joel for some reason. This is actually Amos. It doesn't matter. It all comes from Mashiach. I'm sure the prophets don't mind if I mix up the names because they all wore Mashiach and they're humble men. I still apologize though. So this is chapter 7. This is what the Master Yehovah showed me, and see, he was forming locust swarms at the beginning of the late crop. And see, it was the late crop after the mowings of the sovereign. So the sovereign's already taken his cut, so this is going to afflict the people. And it came to be when they had finished eating the grass of the land that I said, O Master Yehovah, forgive, I pray. How does Jacob survive? For he is small. Yehovah relented concerning this. It shall not be, said Yehovah. This is what the Master Yehovah showed me, and see, the Master Yehovah was calling to contend by fire. And it consumed the great deep, and did consume the portion. And I said, O Master Yehovah, please stop. How does Jacob survive? For he is so small. Yehovah relented concerning this. This shall not be either, said the Master Yehovah. This is what he showed me, and see, Yehovah stood on a wall made with a plumb line, and a plumb line in his hand. And Yehovah said to me, Amos, what do you see? And I said, a plumb line. And Yehovah said, see, I am setting a plumb line in the midst of my people Yisrael. No longer do I pardon them. And the high places of Yitzchak shall be laid waste, and the set apart places of Israel shall be destroyed, and I shall rise with the sword against the house of Jeroboam. Or Jeroboam. That's Jeroboam who made the calves and everything. Then Amaziah, the priest of Bethel, sent to Jeroboam, the sovereign of Israel, saying, Amos has conspired against you in the midst of the house of Israel. The land is not able to endure all his words. Oh yeah, so this was way before Tyre fell. Because it's the order that they put it in the book, sometimes I forget the timeline. For this is what Amos said, Jeroboam shall die by the sword, and Yisrael certainly shall be exiled from their own land. And Amaziah said to Amos, Go, you seer, flee to the land of Yehuda, and eat bread and prophesy there. But do not prophesy any more at Bethel, for it is the sovereign's set-apart place, and it is the house of the rain. Where do they think they got their rain from? And Amos answered and said to Amaziah, I am not a prophet, nor am I a son of a prophet, for I am a herdsman in a grove of sycamore figs. But Yehovah took me from behind the flock, and Yehovah said to me, Go prophesy to my people Israel. And now hear the word of Yehovah. It's so weird because before all this happened, I had learned how to kosher slaughter a lamb, which is more humane than 99% of what you get in America. It gives them dignity and they are less stressed and all that. Very, very interesting experience. And I just successfully, which is supposed to be very hard to do, I transplanted a wild mulberry tree sapling into a pot, and it successfully survived. But Yehovah took me from behind the flock. And Yehovah said to me, Go prophesy to my people Israel, and now hear the word of Yehovah. You are saying, Do not prophesy against Israel, and do not drop words against the house of Yitzhak. Therefore thus said Yehovah, Your wife shall become a harlot in the city, and your sons and daughters fall by the sword, and your land be divided by a measuring line. And you die in a defiled land, and Israel shall certainly be exiled from its land. And I'm saying harlotry because it's using the word WHORE, and sometimes a TOS will do something about that. So I'm saying harlotry. It's the same thing, but... So this is chapter 8 now. This is what the Master Yehovah showed me, and see, a basket of summer fruit. And he said, Amos, what do you see? And I said, a basket of summer fruit. And Yehovah said to me, the end has come upon my people Israel, no longer do I pardon them. And the songs of the Hekel, or the temple, shall be wailing in that day, like a wailing wall, declares the Master Yehovah, many dead bodies everywhere, thrown into any place. Hush. Hear this, you who are swallowing up the needy, to do away with the poor of the land, saying, when does the new moon pass so that we sell grain, and the Sabbath so that we trade our wheat, to make the ephah small and the shekel large, and to falsify the scales by deceit, to buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and sell the chaff of the wheat? Yehovah has sworn by the excellency of Jacob, I shall never forget any of their works. Shall the land not tremble for this, and everyone mourn who dwells in it? And all of it shall swell like the river, heave and subside like the river of Mitzrayim? And it shall be in that day, declares Master Yehovah. He's talking about the Nile, by the way, because remember, Mitzrayim is Egypt. And it shall be in that day, declares the Master Yehovah, that I shall cause the sun to go down at noon, and shall darken the earth on the day of brightness, or on a day of brightness, and shall turn your festivals into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation, and bring sackcloth on all loins, and baldness on every head, and shall make it like mourning for an only son, and its end like a day of bitterness. See, days are coming, declares the Master Yehovah, that I shall send a hunger in the land, not a hunger for bread, nor thirst for water, but for hearing the words of Yehovah. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north to east. They shall diligently search, seeking the word of Yehovah, but they shall not find it. In that day the beautiful maidens and strong young men shall faint from thirst, those swearing by the guilt of Shemiramoth, who say, as your mighty one lives, O Dan, Danald, and as the way of Beersheba lives, and they shall fall and never rise again. So the last chapter here, chapter 9, the 13-minute mark. Literally, as I said it, 13:44. I saw Yehovah standing by the slaughter place, and he said, strike the column head, so that the thresholds shake, and break them off by the head, all of them. And the last of them I kill with the sword, not one of them fleeing gets away, and not one fugitive of them escapes. If they dig into Sheol, from there my hand does take them, and if they climb up to the heavens, from there I bring them down. And if they hide themselves on the top of Carmel, from there I shall search and take them. And if they hide from before my eyes at the bottom of the sea, from there I shall command the serpent, and it shall bite them. And if they go into captivity before their enemies, from there I shall command the sword, and it shall kill them. And I shall set my eyes on them for evil and not for good. And the Master Yehovah Sebaot is he who touches the earth so that it melts. It's actually what happens with a volcano. It's not these giant magma chambers and all this stuff. They're lying. If you look at most, if not all, volcanic eruptions, there's always like a lightning strike or something. There's always a lightning strike. Do you understand? He touches the mountains so they smoke. Is he who touches the earth so that it melts, and all who dwell in it mourn, and all of it come up like the river and subside like the river of Mitzrayim. This is also the whole melted buildings theory. If there's any melted buildings, it's not technology. It's because it says right here, the Master Yehovah Sebaot is he who touches the earth so that it melts. Who is building his upper room in the heavens and has founded his firmament on the earth. who is calling for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth. Yehovah is his name. Are you not like the people of Cush to me, O children of Israel? Declares Yehovah. Did I not bring up Israel from the land of Mitzrayim, and the Philistines from Caphdor? That's Crete. And Aram from Kir? Look, the eyes of the Master Yehovah are on the sinful reign, and I shall destroy it from the face of the earth, except that I do not completely destroy the house of Jacob, declares Yehovah. For look, I am commanding, and I shall sift the house of Israel among all the nations, as one sifts with a sieve, yet not a grain falls to the ground. All the sinners of my people are going to die by the sword, those who are saying, evil does not overtake us or meet us. In that day I shall raise up the booth of David, which has fallen down, and I shall repair its breaches and raise up its ruins, and I shall build it as in the days of old. As in the days of old. That's a tabernacle. That's skin. Gee, whose skin? Whose skin do you think? It's Yeshua HaMashiach. He says, see the body you have prepared for me. See, it is written in the scroll of the book. So that they possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations on whom my name is called, declares Yehovah, who does this. Look, the days are coming, declares Yehovah, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him who sows seed, and the mountains shall drip new wine, and all the hills melt. And I shall turn back the captivity of my people Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards and drink wine from them, and shall make gardens and eat their fruit. And I shall plant them on their own soil, and not uproot them any more from their own soil I have given them, said Yehovah, your Elohim. Amen. So next here on the list, ending on the 18-minute mark here, is Malachi 2:13 through 16. Let's see here. Malachi is right at the end. Oops. So I'll just read the whole chapter 2, and I'll tell you when the verse 13 comes up. And now, O priests, this command is for you. If you do not hear, and if you do not take it to heart to give esteem to my name, said Yehovah Sabaoth, I shall send a curse upon you, and I shall curse your blessings. And indeed I have cursed them, because you do not take it to heart. Literally, if you do not hear, you get a curse, is what Shemiramoth means. It means hear or die, and it also means to hear the city die. See, I shall rebuke your seed and scatter dung before your faces, the dung of your festivals, and you shall be taken away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this command to you as being my covenant with Levi, said Yehovah Sabaoth. Shemiramoth was a Levite's name, by the way. The second order. My covenant with him was life and peace, and I gave them to him to fear. And he feared me and stood in awe of my name. The Torah of truth was in his mouth, and uprightness was not found. And unrighteousness, was not found on his lips. He walked with me in peace and straightness, and turned many away from crookedness. For the lips of a priest should guard knowledge, and they seek the Torah from his mouth, for he is the messenger of Yehovah Sabaoth. But you have turned from the way, you have caused many to stumble in the Torah. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, said Yehovah Sabaoth. And I shall make you despised and low before all the people, because you are not guarding my ways, and are showing partiality in the Torah. Have we not all one Father? Did not one El create us? Why do we act treacherously against one another to profane the covenant of the fathers? This is literally what I preached to that young man that I prayed for. Yehuda has acted treacherously, and an abomination has been done in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Yehuda has profaned what is set apart to Yehovah, which he had loved, and has married the daughter of a foreign mighty one. Let Yehovah cut off from the tents of Jacob the man who does this, stirring up or answering and bringing an offering to Yehovah Sabaoth. And this you have done a second time. You cover the slaughter place. Okay, this is where I wanted to get to, is verse 13. And this you have done a second time. You cover the offering place of Yehovah with tears, with weeping and crying, because he no longer regards the offering, nor receives it with pleasure from your hands. And you said, why? Because Yehovah has been witness between you and the wife of your youth, against whom you have acted treacherously. Though she is your companion and the wife of your covenant. And did he not make one? And he had the remnant of the Spirit? And what is the one alone? He seeks a seed of Elohim. So you shall guard your spirit, and let none act treacherously against the wife of his youth. See, because that's what Yehovah was seeking to birth Mashiach. Not from some second, third, or fourth wife. You understand? That's why Miriam, she was a young maiden, and she was Joseph's first wife, and he did not leave her, even though he thought there might have been some treachery. An angel gave him a message, and he believed it, and he did not put her to shame. Ever. He continues here, verse 16. For I hate divorce, said Yehovah Elohim of Israel, and the one who covers his garment with cruelty. And said Yehovah Sabaoth, so you shall guard your spirit and do not act treacherously. This is talking to the men. Remember when Paul says, if a brother or a sister in marriage is totally abandoned, they can avail themselves of it, for they are not a slave to anyone. It is the men who are divorcing honorable women or sending them away because they're tired of them and they want a new one. Verse 17, you have wearied Yehovah with your words, and you have said, in what way have we wearied him? In that you say, everyone who does evil is good in the eyes of Yehovah, and he is delighting in them. Or, where is the Elohim of right ruling? So yes, there actually is certain like Talmudic teachings that they claim that God loves them more the more sin they do. It's in like a lot of these Kabbalistic writings. You have to look it up, but it's in there. I encourage you to read the rest of Malachi, but I'm going to go by the list here. And next is Jeremiah chapter 19 and 20. I really like this one. All right, Jeremiah 19 and 20. Think of the year 1920 too. Let's see here, 25, 14, 16. There we go. So Jeremiah chapter 19 and 20. So this is chapter 19 here at the 25-minute mark. Thus said Yehovah, go and get a potter's earthen jug, and take some of the elders of the people and some of the elders of the priests. Then you shall go out to the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is by the entry of the potsherd gate, and shall proclaim there the words that I speak to you. The valley of the son of Hinnom was where a lot of them sacrificed their own children, just for context. And shall say, hear the word of Yehovah, O sovereigns of Yehuda and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus said Yehovah Sabaoth, the Elohim of Israel. See, I am bringing evil on this place that makes the ears tingle of all who hear it. Because they have forsaken me and have profaned this place, and have burned incense in it to other mighty ones whom neither they, their fathers, nor their sovereigns of Yehuda have known. And they have filled this place with the blood of the innocents, and have built the high places of Baal, to burn their sons with fire for ascending offerings to Baal, which I did not command or speak, nor did it come into my heart. Therefore see, the days are coming, declares Jehovah, that this place shall no more be called Topeth, or the valley of the son of Hinnom, but rather the valley of slaughter. And I shall pour out the counsel of Yehuda and Jerusalem in this place, and I shall make them fall by the sword before their enemies, and by the hands of those who seek their lives. And I shall give their corpses as meat for the birds of the heavens, and as for the beasts of the earth. And for the beasts of the earth. And I shall make this city a ruin and a hissing. Everyone who passes by it is appalled and hisses because of all of its plagues. And I shall make them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and eat one another's flesh in the siege and the distress which their enemies and those who seek their lives distress them. And you shall break the jug before the eyes of the men who go with you. Remember, they actually mock Christians, saying, "Oh, you eat the flesh of your Lord." Remember that mocking. Elohim shall not be mocked. And you shall break the jug before the eyes of the men who go with you, and shall say to them, Thus said Yehovah Sabaoth, even so I break this people and this city as one breaks a potter's vessel, which one is unable to repair again, and let them bury them in Topeth, till there is no place to bury. This is what I shall do to this place, declares Jehovah, and to its inhabitants, so as to make this city like Topeth. And the houses of Jerusalem and the houses of the sovereigns of Yehuda shall be as unclean as the place of Topeth, because of all the houses on whose roofs they have burned incense to all the hosts of the heavens, and poured out drink offerings to other mighty ones. And when Yirmiyahu returned from Topeth, where Yehovah had sent him to prophesy, he stood in the courtyard of the house of Yehovah and said to all the people, Thus said Yehovah Sabaoth, the Elohim of Israel, See, I am bringing on this city and on all her towns all the evil that I have pronounced against it, because they have stiffened their necks so as not to hear my words. Now this is chapter 20, the 29-minute mark. And Pashur, son of Immer, the priest, who was also chief governor in the house of Yehovah, heard that Yirmiyahu prophesied these words. And Pashur struck Yirmiyahu the prophet, and put him in the stocks that were in the high gate of Benjamin, which was by the house of Yehovah. And it came to be on the next day that Pashur brought Yirmiyahu out of the stocks, and Yirmiyahu said to him, Yehovah has not called your name Pashur, but Magor Misabib, that is, terror on every side. Oh, MAGA? America first? For thus said Yehovah, See, I am making you a fear to yourself and to all your loved ones, and they shall fall by the sword of their enemies while your eyes see it. And I shall give all Yehuda into the hand of the sovereign of Babel, which, remember, the unrighteousness was in a box, and it was taken to Shinar, which is typically Saudi Arabia, a box, a cube, with unrighteousness in it, taken to Saudi Arabia. But Shinar also sounds like Shinzo Abe, the ex-prime minister that got assassinated of Japan. So the Shinzos are the Japanese, Sinites are the Chinese, Sindu, the Hindus. So the sovereign of Babel, it's whoever controls Babylon that's in Iraq. I wonder who controls Iraq right now. Anyway. While your eyes see it, and I shall give all Yehuda into the hand of the sovereign of Babel, and he shall exile them to Babel and strike them with the sword. And I shall give all the wealth of this city, and all its labor, and all its valuables, and all the treasures of the sovereigns of Yehuda, I give into the hand of their enemies, who shall plunder them, seize them, and shall bring them to Babel. And you, Pashur, and all who dwell in your house, shall go into captivity, and enter into Babel. And there you shall die, and be buried there, you and all your loved ones, to whom you have prophesied falsehood. O Yehovah, you enticed me, and I was enticed. You are stronger than I, and have prevailed. I have been ridiculed all day long. Everyone mocks me. For when I speak, I cry out, proclaiming violence and ruin. But the word of Yehovah was made to me a reproach and a derision daily. Whenever I said, let me not mention him, nor speak his name again, it was in my heart like a burning fire, shut up in my bones, and I became weary of holding it back, and was helpless. This is why I like the scriptures version better. For I heard many mocking, fear on every side, they say. Expose, they say. Yes, let us expose him. All my friends watched for my stumbling, saying, he might be lured away, so that we prevail against him, and take our revenge on him. But Yehovah is with me like a mighty awesome one. Therefore my persecutors shall stumble and not prevail. They shall be greatly ashamed, for they have not acted wisely. An everlasting reproach, never to be forgotten. But, O Yehovah Sebaot, trying the righteous and seeking the kidneys and the heart. So if you are a glutton or a drunkard, your kidneys and your heart get affected the most, don't they? Seeing the kidneys and heart, let me see your vengeance on them, for I have revealed my cause to you. Sing to Yehovah, praise Yehovah, for he has delivered the being of the poor from the hand of evil ones. Cursed be the day on which I was born. Let the day not be blessed in which my mother bore me. Let the man be cursed who brought news to my father, saying, a male child has been born to you, making him very glad. And let that man be like the cities which Yehovah overthrew, and repented not. Let him hear the cry in the morning and the shouting at noon, because I was not slain from the womb, so that my mother should have been my burial site, and a womb forever great. Why did I come forth from the womb? To see toil and sorrow, and spend my days in shame. And why? Yirmiyahu? Because you will be in the assembly of Yehovah, that's why. So next here is Romans chapter 1. Oh boy, I already know what that is. Let's go. Romans chapter 1. This is what I sent the false church in my last letter to them, by the way. It was Romans chapter 1. Excuse me real quick. Okay, right after Acts. Oops. Romans chapter 1. Anybody who knows already knows what's coming. I've spoken this many times. Romeum is Romeum, like Romulus. There's a new Alien movie coming out. They call it Romulus. Get ready, because what does Romulus do to Remus? Go read history. I just watched the remake of Jungle Book last night, and he's raised by wolves, which is what Romulus and Remus were allegedly nursed by a wolf, a she-wolf. So it's very interesting timing. So, Romeum, chapter 1. Shaul, that is Paul, a servant of Yeshua Mashiach, called emissary separated to the good news of Elohim, which he promised before through his prophets in the set-apart scriptures, concerning his son, who came of the seed of David according to the flesh, who was designated son of Elohim with power according to the set-apart spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, by the resurrection from the dead, Yeshua Mashiach, the master of us, through whom we have received favor and office of the emissary for belief obedience among all the nations on behalf of his name, among whom you also are the called ones of Yeshua Mashiach. That's why it says, while it's called today, do not rebel again, like at the waters of Meribah, when you hear his words. It continues, to all who are in Rome, beloved of Elohim, called, set apart ones, favor to you and peace from Elohim our Father and the Master Yeshua Mashiach. Firstly, I thank my Elohim through Yeshua Mashiach for you all, that your belief is spoken of in all the world. For Elohim is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the good news of his Son, how unceasingly I make mention of you, always asking in my prayers, if at all possible I shall be blessed by the desire of Elohim to come to you. For I long to see you, so as to impart some spiritual gift to you, for you to be established, and that is, to be encouraged together among you, each by the other's belief, both yours and mine. And I do not wish you to be unaware, brothers, that I often purposed to come to you, but was hindered until now, in order to have some fruit among you, as also among the other nations. I am a debtor both to Greeks and to foreigners, both to wise and to foolish. That is why I am so eager to bring the good news also to you who are in Rome. For I am not ashamed of the good news of Mashiach, for it is the power of Elohim for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yehudai first, and also to the Greek. For in it the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from belief to belief, as it has been written, but the righteous shall live by belief. I think that's Habakkuk 2:4. For the wrath of Elohim is revealed from heaven against all wickedness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. So they tell me the AI system that exists and is being petitioned for an open disclosure by their own people, they say it doesn't exist. Because that which is known of Elohim is manifested among them, for Elohim has manifested it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. So those people who say there's no truth in creation, they're blasphemous liars. Both his everlasting power and mightiness for them to be without excuse. Because although they knew Elohim, they did not esteem him as Elohim, nor gave thanks, but became vain in their reasonings, and their undiscerning heart was darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and changed the esteem of the incorruptible Elohim into the likeness of an image of corruptible man, and of birds, and of four-footed beasts, and of reptiles. This is when they try to worship Messiah as God, when Messiah himself says the Father is greater than I, in Greek, mesion, which is old, three different dimensional qualities. He is older, that is preeminent. He is greater, that is more powerful. And he is more, that means he is more expanded. And he gives all glory to Yahweh Sabaoth. And he submits to him, he prays to him, and he worships him. Messiah prays, worships, and glorifies Yahweh Sabaoth. And all glory goes to Yahweh Sabaoth. They changed the esteem of the incorruptible Elohim into the likeness of an image of corruptible man, and of birds, and of four-footed beasts, and of reptiles. Therefore Elohim gave them up to uncleanness and the lusts of their hearts, to disrespect their bodies among themselves, who changed the truth of Elohim into the falsehood, and worshipped and served what is created rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Because of this, Elohim gave them over to degrading passions. Look up the history of the Catholic Church and all these other places. For even their women exchange natural relations for what is against nature, and likewise the men also, having left natural relations with women, burned in their lust for one another, men with men committing indecency and receiving back the reward which was due for their straying. And even as they did not think it worthwhile to possess the knowledge of Elohim, Elohim gave them over to a worthless mind to do what is improper, having been filled with all unrighteousness, harlotry, wickedness, greed, evil, filled with envy, murder, fighting, deceit, evil habits, whisperers, slanderers, haters of Elohim, insolent, proud, boasters, devisers of evil, disobedient to parents, without discernment, covenant breakers, unloving, unforgiving, ruthless, who, though they know the righteousness of Elohim, that those who practice such deserve death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good. They are an abomination to Yehovah Sabaoth, and they will go to the place that all who displease him go. So next is Joel, the book of Joel. So this IDF officer who wanted to dishonor the name of this prophet, Joel, this whole book will condemn that man who wanted to utter such a disrespectful, disgusting thing about somebody who honors Yehovah. So let's read Joel. Where's it at? Hosea. If I have time, I might actually read Hosea, because I forgot about that one. So there's only 4 chapters, I think. Yeah, it's only 4 chapters. So it's Yoel. That is basically like a small portion of El, or like raising your fist for his power. You could say it's like clenching a little bit. It's like grasping a little bit of El in your hand. In a good way, you know what I mean? Like trying to get life, desiring life from Elohim. So chapter 1. The word of Yehovah that came to Yoel, son of Pethuel. Hear this, you elders, and give ear, all you inhabitants of the land. Has this ever been in your days, or even in the days of your fathers? It's the 44-minute mark. Relate it to your children, and your children to their children, and their children to the generation after them. What the gnawing locust left, the swarming locust has eaten. This is probably why I get that mixed up with Amos. And what the swarming locust left, the crawling locust has eaten. And what the crawling locust left, the consuming locust has eaten. Wake up, you drunkards, and weep, and wail, all you drinkers of wine, on account of the new wine, for it has been cut off from your mouth. For a nation has come up against my land, strong and innumerable. Its teeth are the teeth of a lion, and it has the fangs of a lioness. It has laid waste my vine and splintered my fig tree. It has made it entirely bare and cast it away. Its branches became white. Wail like a maiden girded with sackcloth for the husband of her youth. The grain offering and the drink offering have been cut off from the house of Yehovah. The priests, servants of Yehovah, have mourned. The field is ravaged. The ground has mourned, for the grain is ruined. The new wine has dried up. The oil fails. Farmers are ashamed, the vine dressers wail over the wheat and over the barley, for the harvest of the field is destroyed. The vine has dried up, and the fig tree droops, pomegranate, also palm, and apple tree. All the trees of the field are dried up, because joy has dried up among the sons of men. Gird yourselves and lament, you priests. Wail, you attendants of the slaughter place. Come, lie all night in sackcloth, you attendants of my Elohim. For the grain offering and the drink offering are withheld from the house of your Elohim. Set apart a fast, call an assembly, gather the elders, all the inhabitants of the land, into the house of Yehovah your Elohim, and cry out to Yehovah. At last for the day of Yehovah is near, and it comes as destruction from the Shaddai, the El Shaddai. Is not the food cut off from before our eyes? Joy and gladness from the house of our Elohim? The seed has rotted under the clods. Storehouses are laid waste. Granaries are broken down, for the grain has withered. How the beasts moan. The herds of cattle are restless, because they have no pasture. The flocks of sheep also perish. I cry to you, Yehovah, for fire has consumed the pastures of the wilderness, and a flame has set on fire all the trees of the field. Even the beasts of the field cry out to you, for the water streams are dried up, and fire has consumed the pastures of the wilderness. Blow a shofar in Sion, and sound an alarm in my set-apart mountain. This is chapter 2. Let all the inhabitants of the earth tremble. For the day of Yehovah is coming, for it is near. A day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning clouds spread over the mountains. A people many and strong, the like of whom has never been, nor shall there ever be again after them to the years of many generations. This is what I believe is prophesying about China. Listen how they describe this people. Ahead of them a fire has consumed, and behind them a flame burns. Before them the land is like the Garden of Eden. That's what China looks like. And behind them a desert waste. Look at the map. Just look at the map. And from them there is no escape. Go look how big their armies are. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses. It's telling you what their faces look like. They have more sharpened teeth than most people, and their faces look like horses' faces. Think of how horses' eyes look. And they run like steeds. Think of Jackie Chan. As the noise of chariots, they leap over mountaintops. That's literally helicopters. As the noise of a flaming fire consuming stubble. As a mighty people set in battle array. Before them peoples are in anguish, all faces become flushed. Look up Chinese history. They run like mighty men, they climb the wall like men of battle, everyone goes on his way, and they do not break ranks. Look at Chinese shows of military shows, and think of like the ninjas like going up a mountain. I mean up a wall. You know when they do the corner thing to get up over a wall. They're literally ninjas. They run like mighty men. They climb the wall like men of battle. Everyone goes on his way, and they do not break ranks. And they do not press one another. Everyone goes in his path. They fall among the weapons, but they do not stop. They rush on the city. They run on the wall. They climb into the houses. They enter at the windows like a thief. This is literally ninjas. The earth shall tremble before them. The heavens shall shake. Sun and moon shall be darkened, and the stars withdraw their brightness. They're trying to blame that on Starlink, by the way. Remember I told you I saw the first line of those stars that were going from south to north. In Job, it says that God's glory is in the north, and that angels go to the north to appear before Elohim. And I counted, there's like more than 50 within like an hour that I was watching this line of stars, just in perfect order. And I used to research the internet at that time. And I never heard anything about Star Lake ever. The day after I saw those lights, then all of a sudden Star Lake exists and it's everywhere. It's like, okay. Okay. And they blame it all on this very Asiatic looking white man named Elon Musk, which literally means to smell like an oak or God's skin. Elon can be God's skin. So they're trying to say that now we can't see as many stars as we used to because there's too many Starlink satellites. Now that they're blaming Elon Musk when it's actually the stars withholding their shining. Let's see here. The earth shall tremble before them, the heavens shall shake, sun and moon shall be darkened, and the stars withdraw their brightness. And Jehovah shall give forth his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For mighty is the doer of his word. For the day of Jehovah is great and very awesome, and who does bear it? Yet even now, declares Jehovah, turn to me with all your heart, and with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning, and tear your heart, and not your garments. And turn back to Jehovah your Elohim, for he shows favor and is compassionate, patient, and of great loving commitment, and he shall relent concerning the evil. Who knows? He might turn and relent, and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering and a drink offering for Jehovah your Elohim. Blow a shofar in Zion, set apart a fast, call an assembly. Gather the people, set the assembly apart, assemble the elders, gather the children and nursing babes. Let the bridegroom come out of his room, and a bride from her dressing room. Let the priests, servants of Jehovah, weep between the porch and the slaughter place. That's where they slaughter Zechariah. And let them say, spare your people, O Jehovah, and do not give your inheritance to the reproach of the nations to rule over them. Why should they say among the peoples, where is their Elohim? And let Jehovah be jealous for his land, and spare his people. And let Jehovah answer and say to his people, see, I am sending you the grain and the new wine and the oil, and you shall be satisfied by them. And no longer do I make you a reproach among the nations. And the northerner I shall remove far from you, that's Sheshach, and drive him away into a dry and desert land, with his face towards the eastern sea, and his rear towards the western sea. Sounds like America. And his stench shall come up, and his smell rise, for he has done greatly. Could also be Saudi Arabia, but it does sound like America. Do not fear, O soil, be glad and rejoice, for Jehovah has done greatly. Look up the history of the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, too. Do not fear, you beasts of the field, because America sounds like Amalekites working for Edom, which is Saudi Arabia and the royal family of British, who are not Angles or Saxons or Normans. Do not fear, you beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness shall spring forth, and the tree shall bear its fruit, the fig tree and the vine shall yield their strength. And you children of Zion, be glad and rejoice in Jehovah your Elohim. Remember, this is all contingent on them turning and repenting. For he shall give you the teacher of righteousness, and cause the rain to come down for you, the former rain and the latter rain as before. And the threshing floors shall be filled with grain, and the vats shall overflow with new wine and oil. So literally, between this time and Messiah, the people being prophesied here as the great army are pushed more and more to the east. But then they rejected Mashiach. And ever since Mashiach, China's been becoming at its most height and its most glory, physically. That's very interesting, isn't it? Then I shall repay you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the crawling locust, and the consuming locust, and the gnawing locust, my great army which I sent among you. Then you shall eat and be satisfied, and shall praise the name of Jehovah your Elohim, who has done with you so wondrously, and my people shall never be put to shame. Because remember I said the Sinites are Canaanites. And then most Americans are Canaanites too. So why do you think America and China actually work together? And you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am Jehovah your Elohim, and there is no one else. And my people shall never be put to shame. And after this it shall be that I pour out my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men dream dreams, and your young men see visions. So this is regardless. It says all flesh. So why they say, oh, why do movies and TV shows sometimes seem to predict things? It's like because your young men are seeing visions, regardless of religion, and your old men are dreaming dreams, Mr. Spielberg. That's why they have no excuse at the end. Their own movies condemn them. Their own movies condemn them. Their own visions, their own dreams. That's why the Tyrannosaurus eats the lawyer while he's sitting on the toilet. Do you understand? Their own movies condemn them. They may be using the movie as a passive-aggressive threat. But they better repent or they're going to suffer the same fate as that lawyer. And also on the male servants and on the female servants I shall pour out my spirit in those days. Well, all the slaves in America, they always talked about them singing hymns and praising God. Isn't that something? And I shall give signs in the heavens and upon the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. Okay, sounds like 9/11. The sun is turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yehovah. That also happened on 9/11. And it says in Isaiah that there'll be a feast day, which the fall feasts start around the month of September. And it says there'll be rejoicing in the days when the towers fall. And it also says in that latter days, you will hear the voice of Yehovah, and you will see the descending blow of his arm in fire and sulfur and hailstones. And then he will put on the nations a yoke that leads astray. That's literally fake news, but what do I know? And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yehovah shall be delivered. And remember, Yeshua, the name Jesus, only applies to certain qualities. It can mean his power, his sixer. So as a response to the Remphanites, because everything gets put under Messiah's feet, and the star of Remphan represents trying to put all the dimensions physically under a spell. So, but it can be corrupted where it could mean his pig, because sus can also mean pig. So that's why Yeshua or Yehoshua, which means Yehovah's deliverance, is the name we should use because it has the covenant name in there. And that's why it's applied in the New Testament. And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yehovah shall be delivered, for on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be an escape, as Yehovah has said, and among the survivors whom Yehovah calls. Very interesting, because I said I talked to that young man, and I literally prayed for him while he was being evacuated. Because, and I don't know where he is now. I think he's safe, but I hope I see him again in some way or another. So this is the last chapter of Joel here, chapter 3. I'll finish it right here. For look, in those days and at that time, when I turn back the captivity of Yehuda and Jerusalem, then I shall gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. And I shall enter into judgment with them there for my people, my inheritance Yisrael, whom they have scattered among the nations, and they have divided up my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and they have given a young man for a prostitute, and sold a girl for wine and drank it. This is trafficking. This is the whole Mossad Maxwell thing. Ghislaine Maxwell's father was a Mossad agent. Look him up. And also, what are you to me, O Tyre, and Sidon, and all the coasts of Philistia? Are you repaying me? And if you are repaying me, I would swiftly and speedily return your reward on your own head. For you have taken my silver and my gold, and brought my treasures into your temples. And the people of Yehuda and the people of Jerusalem you have sold to the sons of Javan, which are the Greeks, to remove them far from their borders. See, I am stirring them up. What's interesting is the most Hebraic people in Gaza, they send them to America to get educated. That one guy who looked like a more Hamitic version of me that I showed in one of my streams, He was sent to America and educated and came back and was streaming and showing the truth of what's happening and said he was working on this secret project. And that's when, coincidentally, something blew up near him and shrapnel killed him. See, I am stirring them up out of the place to which you have sold them, and I shall return on your own head what you have done. This could be even America. It could be just a dispersion coming from America and Europe and all over. And shall sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the people of Yehuda, and they shall sell them to the Shebahites, to a nation far off, for Yehovah has spoken. Proclaim this among the nations, prepare for battle. Wake up the mighty men. So when it says Philistia, I think of Hamas. That's just what I think of. And anybody who supports them. There are real Hebrews and real Christians in Gaza. That's a known fact. So it's not talking about them. It's talking about the leaders who sell people. Sell them out. Proclaim this among the nations, prepare for battle, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of battle draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Hasten and come, all you nations, and gather together all around. O Yehovah, let your mighty men come down here. Let the nations be aroused, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there I shall sit to judge all the nations on every side. Put in the sickle, for the harvest has grown ripe. Come, go down, for the winepress is filled. The vats overflow, for their evil is great. Crowds in the valley of decision. For the day of Yehovah is near in the valley of decision. Sun and moon shall become dark, and the stars shall withhold their brightness. And Yehovah shall roar from Zion and give forth his voice from Jerusalem, possibly the 144,000. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but Yehovah shall be a refuge for his people and a stronghold for the children of Israel. Then you shall know that I am Yehovah your Elohim, dwelling in Zion, my set-apart mountain. And Jerusalem shall be set apart, and foreigners shall not pass through her again. Or strangers, meaning anybody who rejects Yehovah. And it shall be in that day that the mountains drip with new wine, and the hills flow with milk, and all the streams of Yehuda shall be flooded with water, and a fountain flow from the house of Yehovah, and water the Vadi Shatim. Remember, Shet means to grow, which is probably why manure is called shit, because we have Yiddish people who are in America. We have a lot of Yiddish sayings, so it makes sense that manure is called shet, because what does it do? It causes growth. That's why people say, oh, this is some good shit. It's like, why do they say that? Because, and it's a lot of like African Americans in this country, but the specific African Americans they sent here actually have Hebrew blood, and that's where the nappy hair comes from. It's most likely Naphtali, which means wrestling, and a lot of these black men are very, very good at wrestling and football. But anyway, Mitzrayim shall become a ruin, and Edom a ruin. Because remember, most Africans have an elongated skull, which is Japheth. So the ones with a Semitic skull and the curly hair. Mitzrayim shall become a ruin, and Edom a ruin, a wilderness because of violence done to the people of Yehuda. Saudi Arabia is a wilderness for the most part, whose innocent blood they shed in their land. But Yehuda shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem to all generations. And I shall avenge their blood, which I have not avenged, and Yehovah shall be dwelling in Zion. So that's the end of the fourth part here. As I predicted, I think it's going to be 5 parts for every dimension, but it may be more. So let's just see. I'm going to start the music here. This one's funny. So when somebody asks Trump if he really loves America, which nations are a her, this is his response.
Do you even love her?
Probably.
Probably.